Um, so this topic really ties in and builds on what we talked about on Tuesday, very clearly. I think it's a I think a topic that we kind of hear the word savings, and some people on this workshop will go, "I'm doing well. I don't need to worry about it." But a lot of us, frankly, including myself, it's a scary word because we don't feel like we're doing enough, and we haven't done enough to save. And so I really want to be cognizant that there's a big range of people in this room. Some have been able to save quite a bit, um, and some, are hopefully beginning their saving journey on this program. And so please, don't panic or worry if you feel like, God, I've not done anything and I don't have enough savings. The whole point of being on this program is that we're going to work on that plan and begin the process of getting savings built up, getting an emergency fund together, and then looking at longer term, okay, how do I get my money to work for me? What are the different options? So I'm going to share. So I went on the FDIC's website again, and I pulled their PowerPoint on savings. It was absolutely enormous. 60 slides. I have cut it down to what I think are the most important ones, which is about 25 of them. Uh, Everybody can see my screen, hopefully. I can't see I can see some people's cameras, but everyone can see the screen. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. Thank you. All righty. So we're gonna just kind of jump straight in. I think we all know what the concept of saving is. Um, and I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds on defining that concept. This, I think, is fairly self-evident. Um, Spending less money is the same as saving money. Yes and no. Um, what I'm going to drive home in this workshop, I'm calling it is a workshop because I really hope to hear from people on this about how if you think you're doing really well when it comes to saving, your responsibility is to share some of that wisdom with this group on how you've been able to save. So really looking forward to hearing different people's perspective, processes, how they do it, because there's a lot of different ways to save. What I'm hoping everyone comes out of here, if they didn't have, the a plan, or at least they've decided to make a savings plan or update their savings plan, and if they already have a good one in place, that's great. Then just check it and make sure it's still working for them. So that's really what I'm hoping by the end of this. The people will be thinking about what their savings are looking like, where that's going, how much they're saving, what they need, to have as a emergency fund. All those different things are going to be looked at. So why do we save? A lot of different reasons. As it says here, we have different savings goals. We want to build wealth, emergency fund. I feel like every month there's been an unexpected expense that's hit us that I feel like everyone in the room can very much empathize with that. That it's, I don't know, it seems like every month there's some kind of just completely out of left field expense that we haven't thought about. But I think that's normal for this period in our lives. So gives you peace of mind. Get to keep a job. I don't know exactly if that one is as relevant. Um, but I think that it's the peace of mind thing. It all ties into what we've been working on since the beginning of the program, which is taking control of your finances. So, budgeting, we're talking about taking control of our income and expenses. Savings is just another part of that. It's being able to, you know, to know that we have uh, a pool of money that we can tap into for emergencies, for anything larger expenditures that we want to make, that kind of thing. It's what having savings does is it starts giving you a bit more freedom. because once you have an emergency fund, then you can start looking at investing some money, and potentially other ways of developing or deploying your savings, which we'll get onto. So there's a lot of different reasons to save, and we'll talk about how we can build where we build savings. So there's a lot of different options, and for most of us, there's going to be there's not as many options because some of them require a certain amount of money to put in, and that's totally fine. That's normal. This slide here, I think it's saying where would you put your money? Um, Frankly, of all these options, the one that is the by far the most sensible is a savings account. Um, Having money in cash, highly is extremely risky. I love my friends and family. I would not give them my savings, except my wife. Other than that, they're not getting a penny. Um, Prepaid card. I don't think that's the best place for savings to go. And then savings and credit association. I've honestly never even come across one of those before, but if it's a savings account, then it's probably safe. But these are not my slides, so please forgive me. Some of them aren't really super relevant, but the point I'm driving home here is if you went with savings, the best thing to have is a separate account that's really just for savings. I'm going to throw this back out to the floor, and I want to hear from people. I'd love people to put in the chat box. How many people here feel that they have, they've got an emergency fund and they've got a great savings plan? And you can put your hand up on the chat or um, not seeing anything yet. Maya, fantastic. Good.
I do.
Anna, good. Excellent. And how many people here feel the opposite? It's just no plan. You just started one, Nakia. Fantastic. Um, Starting to save much better, Roxy. That's excellent. So it sounds like there's already a lot of people who are, yeah. Did I say auto drafted? So I'm gonna get onto that. Yeah, it's so it's a mixed bag. Of where people are here. I'm definitely in the I need to save more category right now. Um, and I'll get on to emergency savings as kind of why that's so important, um, as we go into down the presentation. So this is when we start to get into the more high interest options for saving. There's a little bit about interest going on, which is very important. So once you have a certain amount of savings for an emergency, I'd say once you've got an emergency fund, these are the kinds of places you can start putting money into. Um, Money market deposit accounts typically offer more higher interest than a traditional savings account, but they usually have a minimum deposit amount. That being said, the minimum deposit amount is not usually, you can get ones that aren't outrageously high. I think some start at 5,000, um, versus some certificates of deposit tend to have a higher amount. So certificates of deposit, the difference between that and a money market account is, and sorry for if the people are already very familiar with this, money market accounts you can typically access as much as you want. A certificate of deposit, you lock in your money for a certain period of time. It could be a couple of months, it could be years. But CDs, certificates of deposit, tend to offer higher interest rates because you're locking that money in. Um, and then these are the other options, kind of savings bonds, retirement accounts, which we're all familiar with, and finally investments. So when it kind we'll do is we're doing a session on investments and retirement planning, so I'm not going to get too into the weeds on that one. I will say that the smartest long-term way of growing your wealth is by putting your money into an index fund for the S&P 500 and ignoring it. And this is if you're looking for anything over 5 years. The S&P 500 returns an average about 9% a year uh, since the last 100 years. Um, it's usually free to put it in an index fund. There's no one taking money out of that. There's a fee. Um, that is, forget investment managers, forget money managers, index funds, especially when it comes to the US stock market. It's going to get you a better return than most pretty much any savings account. Your money's not tied up. You can pull it out whenever you want. That's not this is not investment advice, but this is if you want to invest in something that's relatively low risk. Um, in index funds are the lowest cost and lowest risk long-term investment out there, and I think most financial professionals will agree with that. Um, any comments or questions on this slide? Okay. I'll be sharing everything with you tomorrow, with including the recordings. So, um, interest. We all know what interest is, but I don't, some of you might not be aware of how just fiercely important compounding interest is. Um, we all also know about inflation. We've all been dealing with inflation in a bad way the last couple of years. So and again, this is simplistic stuff, but this is why keeping stuff in cash versus putting it into something that yields a high rate of interest is so important. So obviously, cash under the mattress doesn't change. What this slide doesn't say is on top of that, you've got inflation, and so that $1,000 in 10 years is worth more like $700 in 10 years' time. So you're actually losing money every year that it's not growing. Bank account obviously pays interest. So again, but if your bank's only paying you 2% and interest and inflation, which has been really high lately, it's still at around 3%, you're still going to lose in real terms 1% a year on that money. So you may have $1,221 in 10 years, but you still lost purchasing power by not having money invested that's higher than the rate of interest. Any questions on that slide or comments? All right. So this is just another slide about compounding interest. And this just really shows you the power of compounding interest and why, when you start beginning to save up kind of larger amounts of money and have that with some kind of compounding interest account, it starts really working for you. So in this example, we start with $60 and at a rate of 2%, compounded monthly, we end up with $2,400 in 30 years. So to use different numbers on that. So I've got a compounding interest calculator in front of me. So say you take $5,000, you put it in an account, a savings account, you add, let's just say $50 a month of savings to it, and you leave that by itself for, let's just say 20 years. And this is a money market account. So not the highest yield, but it's around 5% right now for one of those. Um, Sometimes a bit lower, depends where you go. So you will have turned that $5,000 plus your $50 a month in 20 years. You've got $35,000. So, and that's just the power of compounding interest. Now, if you put that in the S&P 500, which is about 9% a year, and you get that same amount, just $50 saved a month, starting with 5,000, that goes up to nearly $65,000. So, this is just really just explaining the power of money working for you, and that's how the rich stay rich because they have a lot of assets that compound in income, and they don't actually pay a ton of income tax, and capital gains taxes are very low. So on top of that, this way of accumulating wealth is much more tax efficient. Um, so this is really just kind of an illustration of compound interest. Um, in terms of, how again we go an annual percentage interest. So if you are looking at a savings account, you want to look at the APY as opposed to just the interest rate. The APY factors in the compounding of that account. Some different accounts have different compounding periods. Some are monthly, some are quarterly, some are annual. Um, you want to compare APY, not interest rate, when you're looking at an account. So if you are looking for a place to park your savings, it's different. It's not the interest rate. The APY is more important. Any questions on that? All right.
Interesting. I have a question. What is
Yes.
what's a annual percentage yield?
And yeah, yes. So that is the real interest rate. That's it's not just it's what the compounding rate is. So it's the total amount that your money is going to grow in that year versus just the interest rate.
Mhm.
So when you look at a savings account, you want to find the APY, not just the interest rate, because different ones have different, even if it's the same interest rate, some may have different compounding periods. You typically want more, you want something that's more frequent, so monthly versus quarterly or annually, because that's going to build up money much faster. So
Hmm. I wonder why
that's
they never talk about that when in savings APY. They never bring APY up. They just talk about interest. I don't know why
yeah,
that is.
it's important. It's because I feel like a lot of institutions seem to have a vested interest in not paying you and I free money because
Mhm.
they want us to be in they want us to be in the dark on this knowledge and not be able to make savings work for us as opposed to us work for our money.
Mm.
So that's why we run one of the reasons why we run this program. And unfortunately, the whole system is really designed to catch people out, especially today versus 10, 20, 30 years ago, because the onus has shifted from, your company, people working for a company for their entire careers and getting a pension and having all that sorted for them, to it's all on you now as the individual. You've got to work out your, either 401k plan, your IRAs, and that's difficult. We're expected to be our own financial planner, which is in itself a professional field. So this is, why we run this program, because it's a lot of information and it's difficult and it's impossible to do without people who know better, who know the different areas supporting you.
Mhm.
Because it's just there's a lot to learn. That's why we run for 12 months, because there's a whole lot of knowledge out there, and it's important to have, professionals in your kind of on your team, making sure that you're doing all the right things. So, key takeaway, look at the different options. Um, as I said, money market accounts are probably the best option. If you have a few thousand you want to put into an account and you want to keep contributing to it. After that, certificates of deposit start paying higher, and then long term, just put it in an index fund. S&P 500, probably the best one. That's that's it's pretty rock solid. All right. When we've talked about why, we save for unexpected expenses, I think that I would say the first, there's different boxes of savings that we need to look at. And so, yeah, the emergency fund should be the first box. That is for, it can be anything. Usually in the US, of course, healthcare, an unexpected injury or illness, can add up and be really, really expensive. It could be maintenance if you own a home. It can be your car if it breaks down. The emergency fund is kind of the first. I would say the first kind of focus of savings, because you need to have that to kind of protect yourself. once you've built up the emergency fund, and again, the emergency fund, the amounts vary. That's important to mention in terms of for you, it's what you feel would make you most comfortable. Some people save 3 months worth of income, like family income, or 60 up to 6 months. For others, it's less than that. So it depends on your situation and what you feel is a good buffer for an emergency. So I'm going to say this now. I'm not telling you you need $20,000 sitting in an account as an emergency fund because, frankly, that's just not realistic for some people, and some people's emergencies are different from others. So, but it's important to have a sort of cordoned off savings just for emergencies, and then the next kind of bucket of savings can be more focused on long-term growth and wealth building. Um, so it's important think about the different uses of savings. Um, Unexpected expenses. I'm sure we're all very familiar with those. Um, so yeah. And this is an important point. What it avoids is you going into debt, which is the typical thing that happens when you have an unexpected expense without an emergency fund is you will put it on credit cards or you will pay over time with interest. And so, this prevents that. And that prevents you spending a bunch of extra money on interest that you don't want to spend. So that once and if you do spend down that emergency fund, then the goal shifts. Okay, then it's back to building up the emergency fund. It is, as it says here, it is a cycle, but it's worth doing. And I agree with um it is an important part of financial health and stability because you're no longer when you have that fund, you're no longer going into debt whenever there's a big unexpected expense. You're using funds you built up and then you can replenish those funds. Um, One thing that's worth doing, and there's a good technique, and I recommend this to everyone, is you know when you do feel like you can save when you've got more income than expenses, have a direct deposit every month, just immediately when the day your money is coming in, have a direct deposit that takes whatever you feel like you can save automatically and puts it into the savings account. So you're not even thinking about it. It just happens. And then that's the rest of it is the money you have to spend on other expenses. Um, I think that's for me the best technique to get to building up savings is to not even think about it and just consider your net income to be post savings income. And I've not always been able to do that, especially when I was a pedicab driver and my income was cash based and very unpredictable. Um, it was not always easy to do. I understand it is not always easy to save anything. Um, if if you feel like that's the case, obviously, we got to wait until either expenses go down or income comes up. That's just a reality. If you feel like it's, 20, $30 a month, that's still good. You know, Start taking that even the smallest amount out of your account when you get paid and automatically transferring it. And then, as either income goes up or expenses go down, you could increase that amount. And, it's building up the habit that's so important, or even just the background mechanism to save that's really important. And I'm hoping that, everyone who's on this call and hopefully the one this evening will that if they haven't got a plan in place, that's the thing that they'll do is they'll look at the budgeting stuff we did on Tuesday and they'll look at this and they'll figure out, is there a plan or is it possible to create a savings plan? And then by implementing it, they'll just have the money come out of their account whenever money comes in. Even if it's 10, $20, it's still saving. It's still, you set up that process. So we've already covered this. And then, yeah, so it's all about having a plan is the main thing. So even if the plan is I can't plan right now because I can't afford to save, that's fine too. It's just important to be thinking about, you know, about these long-term goals. So SMART goals is a pretty, it's SMART is used for a lot of different things when it comes to goals, but I think I use it for all the goals I set on the program with my mentees. Every goal has to be specific, measurable, action-oriented, reachable, time-bound. I think these are all fairly self-explanatory things, but this is, you can see the quote here, I think is good. I will say $10 each month for 6 months by getting cash in my bank's ATM rather than at the ATM that charges fees. So I have $60 for holiday gifts by November 1st. So that is a complete SMART goal. It's using all of those different elements and you know, it's realistic. It's action oriented. It's reachable. That's what goals should be. You don't want to be setting lofty goals that are unreachable because all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure, and then it just knocks your confidence, and you no longer feel like you that just takes you back 2 steps. So start small, start realistic. Um, that's the way to build up savings. So this is another thing that I find super useful and important. Write it down. Write it somewhere where you can see it. I have digital notepads that I refer to every day. I have to-do lists. I put everything in those because I see them every day. If I have something I need to do around the house, if I have a task I need to do either for Flyte or for household stuff, I write it down on my digital, notepad. I have different sections. I even highlight things depending on how important they are with a little dorky traffic light system. Works for me, but it works. And I also put stuff in my calendar as well. If it's really, if it's important, I literally block out my calendar and I say, okay, do this task. Because I look at my calendar all day. So, write stuff down wherever you see it. Could be writing it down, I don't know, putting it on with a fridge magnet, you know, anywhere that's good for you. A notepad that you see regularly, a notice board in your house, write that goal down and stick to it, or try and stick to it. Share it with family, especially if you're a household with kids, share it, talk to your partner about the goal and decide what that's going to be when it comes to saving or anything financial, and try and use that smart thing on the smart guideline and set those goals around there. I'll set those goals around the smart side of things because that there it makes it so much more so much easier doing it that way and recalibrate as things go along. Um, so that's really the driving point of this bit of the presentation is have a try and create a plan. It's really hard to do budgeting, saving, any of this without a written plan and without setting aside time to do it. You do need to, block out time in your month to look, okay, I'm going to go through my budget and I'm going to review my saving plan every month. And that's about the right amount of time to do it because it's constant. It's a never ending, process that happens. So please, if there's anything you can take away from this, if you're not already doing it, it's start putting together that plan. Work with your mentor on that plan. Everyone here has a dedicated mentor for the next 10 months, which is an amazing resource. Use your mentor to bounce that to be the kind of accountability partner for that plan. It's a really one of the best parts of this program, I think, is we we are able to keep each other accountable. And as a business owner, it's really hard sometimes, especially because we're all pretty much sole proprietors. It's really hard to keep ourselves on track. We get distracted by all kinds of stuff, by life, and yeah, it's not easy. So I think that's pretty much the end of this deck. feel like I talked a lot, but I would love to hear people. Does anyone have a way they save that they would like to share, or any tips?
I'll share. Um, can I go to
Yes, of
speak?
course, yes.
This is funny. I where I have my savings, I have it at a credit union, and it's not a place that I get to very easily. I don't use any of the outside stuff like going to their ATM if I need money. I'll have it in the savings. And it's not like it's not, I don't make it easy for myself to go in and take the money out. It's like I have to travel to get to it, to the actual physical location to deposit the money. And then I leave it there until I have to go back again to make another deposit. So I kind of make it a little hard on myself to get to it. I don't make it easy for me. So, they don't have, because I'm self-employed, they don't have the automatic withdrawal or anything like that. But that particular credit union is where I have my emergency fund. So
Hmm.
I kind of make it hard on myself so I can't get to it, you know.
Hmm.
Uh yeah,
That's a
and
good idea, though.
that's just how I do it. I just make it hard for myself. It's like it's not a part of town that I'm gonna go to often. I'm just gonna go there, make the deposit when I need to, and leave it there.
That's good. I mean, you want to make it, hard to get hold of, but not, not
Yeah.
not hard in case of an emergency.
Right,
But
right. I know I
just
can
just
get there in an
challenging enough.
emergency. Yeah, I can get there in emergency, but just regular, like if I want to
Yeah,
get my nails done, no, no, I
yeah,
can't dip into it.
yeah, yeah. Well, that makes sense. Does anyone else have any? I said Naya. So you have an online savings account that takes 2 days to transfer money. So it's hard to get them. So exactly same as Julie. It's just it makes it a little bit harder to access it, and so kind of protects that chunk of savings as well. Anybody
This
else?
is Melanie. Yeah, this is Melanie. I can
Melanie?
share. Hey,
Great.
um, one of the tools that I was given a while ago is the 50/30/20 method. So because I'm a 1099 a lot, anytime I get income, I set aside 50% for to pay bills, 30% goes into savings, and 20% is fund money. So I break it up into percentages.
Mhm. Yeah, and I've obviously heard of that before, and that's definitely a good way of doing it. Especially as you say when you're 1099. It's also it's what I've found useful is having multiple accounts. As when I was 1099 and just immediately partitioning that money as soon as it came in, and just like exactly doing it instantly, and just treating one account as that's siphoned off, that's going off for taxes, that's going off for fun. So that I think is one of the best habits to get into, is separating out the money as soon as it comes in. And even when if it's W-2, again, treat it as if it's coming in, but it's not net income yet because you haven't taken out savings, you haven't taken out retirement. Um, Robin, I just pay my bills, look at what I have left, and save a portion of what's left. That also works. I think that's very that's what I think most people do, and that definitely works. I mean, it's just the more important thing is knowing, if you know you have money left over at the end of the month, and that's what's left, then do that. But if and other people are in different situations where they're finding out that they're either running out of money, or they're not they're just about meeting their expenses, then it's time to look at the breakdown of expenses. Is there any flexibility there? If there is, how much can I take out at the beginning of the month to start putting aside? Saving books. Oh yeah, I've Are these like as in saving books, as in books that are written about saving, or are these like specific books that like you can write down your income and expenses into and savings?
It's some books that I saw on TikTok, and I was like, I said, well, I could use this because I do have like she has the credit union where I have an account that I know is going to be hard for me to get money out of, so I put money in there, and I have like a nice bit of money in there. And I saw these books, and I was like, well, they say you could save $5,000, and so far I'm up to like $1,200, and it's whenever I have like I look at my purse and I have extra money, I'll just put whatever that day it's like the 100-day savings thing and whatever is available. I just stick the money that I could spare in that spot, and it helps me just save. Like it's cash on hand, but it also helps me save. So it's like me trying to achieve that $5,000 too. And also I have my with my payroll check, I have a certain amount going into a separate account too. So I'm like, okay, when I fill this book up, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put this into another account, a separate account, so I don't touch this money. So it sounds a little different, but that's what I purchased the book to see how it works, and I'm up to $1,000.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and there's lots of different systems for saving and budgeting. It's just really whatever works best for you, and that comes with when you know yourself really well. You're like, okay, I if some folks like, Robin are like, okay, I know that, I'm not going to overspend every month. I know I always have money at the end of the month, so I know I can save. If if you're worried that you're going to end up spending a bit more, during the month and you want to kind of instill like create a system that is kind of foolproof at the beginning when your money comes in. So it just depends on yourself, on what you feel would be the best for you, what you're able to save. So there's a million ways to do it, and it's difficult to talk about as in a single hour as a topic because we could do 7 hours on just budgeting and saving if we really wanted to. But hopefully there's some good takeaways from this session that you can work with your mentor on, and I think that's everything on my end. Does anyone else have any comments, suggestions, anything else they'd like to add before I close it out for the day? Oh, housekeeping, which I totally forgot. And yesterday I'll say buy in bulk when you have the extra money, 100%. I just went to Costco on the weekend. And yes, we did spend a lot of money, but it was all non-perishable, especially formula. I think we just pretty much just go there for formula and diapers, and then the rest is like, all right, let's we'll see what we have time for. Um, good. So next week we have. So I think I'll be. Well, you may have to cancel the 10 a.m. on Tuesday. I'm gonna let you know because the banker who's facilitating it the banks can only do 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. And I think I'm busy that morning. So just I'll let you know via email and text message. If not, I'll have to cancel it. And then hopefully you can make the 1 p.m. or 5 p.m. There will be a recording from the 5 p.m. session anyway. So just a heads up, we may have to cancel the 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Still the ongoing issue with Bonvenue Bank that we've had this week, which is why I am doing these sessions. So just apologies in advance if we have to do it. If you can't make it, don't worry. There'll be a recording and I'll send out the materials. So not to worry. All right. Thanks so much everyone for attending today. It's great to see you and looking forward to seeing you at the sessions next week. And yeah, and don't forget the networking mixer is on the 26th, 5 to 7. And that is at I forget where it is. It's a marketing workshop that's being run by one of our cohort members. And it is Monday the 26th, and it's 5 to 7 at the Mind Body Collective. Everyone's been invited, so please, we already have 15 people who are going. Please make sure you accept that invitation if you can make it. All right. That's everything from me. Thank you. Bye. And have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody. Great to see you all. See you soon, Tadasi. Thank you, Roxy. Thanks, Robin.